Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. My name is Marilyn Shannon. I'm so happy to have you here with us today. Welcome to the Breaking Free Show. As you know, each and every week we bring you guests, stories, ideas, techniques, strategies, anything we can find that we know is going to help us learn, inspire us, create a world of peace and love and all kinds of good stuff. And so, you know, we look for the opportunities where we're going to learn something and make our lives a little easier. And today is going to be just one of those days. You know that. So let me tell you before I get started that you are welcome to join us in our chat. You can just put your name, nickname, whatever you like, and you can ask questions. You can comment right from in there, which is next to the video. And at any point in time, you can call in with a comment, an idea, a question to 919-518-9773, or you can come in on Skype from anywhere in the world, computers, that's plural, the number 2K voice. And we do encourage you to do that because this is our show, I feel like, is a community. And I really would welcome the opportunity for all of you to call in anytime you want and chat with us about whatever it is we're talking about, or you can take us off the subject if you desire and just ask the question. So before we get started and before I introduce my guest to you, I want to say hi to Amnon.
Hello, Marilyn. How are you?
I'm good, and you? I know he's the invisible voice. You don't see him, do you? But he's here.
I'm not really here.
Oh, yes, he is. He is our illustrious producer, and I'm so happy to have him. He's
You had a good weekend. You're happy. You
I,
look good.
Yeah, thank you, thank
Great.
you. Yeah, I spent a lot of time with my family this weekend,
Good.
which always makes me happy. Happy. So anyway, here we go on with our show. So today we have Don Watkins, founder of Tinkering School NC. And I'm really excited to have him here because anything we can learn about children, and remember, we're all children at heart, betters our world. So let me welcome Don to the show. Hey, Don.
Hi, Marilyn.
How are you?
Very good. Happy to be here. Happy Monday.
A happy Monday for sure. So tell us about Tinkering School.
Sure. Tinkering School, NC, is basically a day camp program for children to learn about using real tools and making big, open-ended, collaborative projects, kind of in a week-long format. Tinkering School is actually started by Gaver Tully in San Francisco about 10 years ago. Started it out of his home and started working with children and exposing and teaching them about managing risk and building things with their own hands and enabling them to experience things that they normally wouldn't. My wife and I got turned on to the idea about 3 years ago, and we went out and spent a week with them in San Francisco learning all their methods and techniques, and had a fantastic week and inspired it to bring it here to North Carolina.
So when you say managing risk, you're also talking about managing fear.
A little bit, yes. I would say, using a tool. If you're a child, let's say between the ages of 8 to 12, that's kind of our target audience there. There's a good chance that you have all these ideas. You'd love to build something, whether it's a go-kart or a catapult or a big castle, and short of getting some cardboard boxes and some duct tape, you probably haven't been given much rope to work with, so to speak. So we work with kids to teach them how to use cordless drills and impact drivers and some basic hand tools where they're going to build a structure that they can actually walk on, use, crawl inside of, shoot things or drive, which is really exciting. So that's kind of what I mean by managing risk. So, for example, on the first day, okay, here's our safety goggles. We're going to use this impact driver. Here's how to use it. Here's how to avoid hurting yourself. And they're like, really? Wow. This is so
Like, do
cool.
my parents know I'm going to do this?
This is so adult. This is so
Like,
real.
my parents said this was okay.
This is amazing. And after this, we're going to have a bonfire, or we're going to go do something cool at the nearby lake. And instantly they realized, oh, wow, this is different. We're not in a little classroom. So that's kind of what I mean by managing risk and teaching them to do things that maybe they wouldn't get to normally.
It is really interesting because when you think about it, I, for one, can't even imagine turning over a drill to my child, but I can see why it would be, important, and what a great opportunity. So, is every week of this camp the same? Do you do the same kind of projects, or are they different depending upon the kids that you get?
We always look at, and this is one thing that we learn, is basically you'll see other maker style programs where you're building things, or summer camp programs where there'll be a schedule, and weeks 1 through 10, and this week it's this week, and underwater basket weaving one week, and widget making another, and something another week, and you're very, very boxed in by this agenda and plan that is all mapped out weeks in advance. And basically, if the counselors, if we call them collaborators, if they're not fired up and excited to do it, then it kind of falls short. So between working with what's going on in the weather that week, we try to be building outdoors or outside as much as possible. Who's on staff, who likes to do what that week, and then also, of course, looking at what children are going to be coming. Do we have more boys than girls? Do we have some who maybe have some learning challenges? Do we have some who are repeaters who've been with us before? So we need to mix it up. So we try to announce the theme at the beginning of the week, and encourage them and the parents just to have their kids come with wide open expectations, just that they're going to be building and using their hands to do some neat things.
So, do you run a camp every week?
No, I wish. I wish that would be fantastic. That would be a dream job. We run it primarily as a summer camp program, June, July, and August, and then due to the unique situation here in Wake County and Raleigh, where they have year-round schooling, there's kids on one of 4 tracks where kids are always out of school,
Right.
but it's not week after week after week after week.
So, how many weeks do you have a camp?
Well, right now we have children in for the last 18 months. Let's see, we did nine weeks last fall. I think about 7 this last spring. So it's not back-to-back weeks.
And it's not half the year.
No, it's
No.
not half the year. So, but we definitely have, basically June, July, and August. There's 10 straight weeks of building when you're outside, and that's fun and great. We also do some winter workshops where it kind of in a one-day format where kids can come and make holiday crafts and gifts and things like that. And they're more than just taking popsicle sticks and a hot glue gun that you can do anywhere. We made our own reindeer, for example, and cut all the wood from scratch, screwed it all together, painted it up, and then still had time for fun and petting animals at the farm and things like that too. So
what motivates you to do this?
I just love seeing kids being able to do things that they wouldn't normally be able to otherwise. I mean, I was always into books and reading when I was a kid. I probably spent too much time reading about doing things as opposed to actually doing them themselves. So this is the creative side that's eventually come out later in life. So I just love for kids to be able to do things that they haven't been able to do or an experience before. And if you can make things with your own 2 hands, then I think that really empowers them.
Right. The satisfaction must be extraordinary.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, and the teamwork. How many kids you take at a time?
It's a small group. Even in summer, we just have 15 kids.
But they work on a project together, the 15 kids?
For the most part, yes. We will try to do something a little more modular. So, like, let's say a third of the group has some similar abilities or interests, then we'll try to get them to work with one collaborator, another 5 with another, kind of break it up that way, so we can keep the kids engaged and minimize bottlenecks on the projects.
And are they, so do the kids somehow identify one of them as being the leader? Are they doing that, or is it up to the counselors?
No.
Okay.
The counselors are more like facilitators and keep the project moving forward, we structure the projects in a way that they're just to minimize bottlenecks, because it doesn't matter if you're a group of kids in this kind of day camp format or whether you're working with your dad or your parents at home trying to get in some do-it-yourself learning, that the second that a kid is standing there waiting to be told what to do next, you start to lose them fast. So everything we do is kind of structured to keep the kids moving. And so, as you can imagine, exact precision is not at the top of the list. It's more about getting it done and picking projects that don't have to be so exact, and that don't have to be adult led. They can be kid driven.
Right. Which makes a big difference because, I mean, sometimes they don't feel listened to, and sometimes we're really not listening to them. Right.
Yeah, that's very true.
So here's Chris posted here a testimonial. So from one of the parents, I guess, on the website. So this is nice. My kids, a boy 7 and a girl 10, would go here every day if they could. They love this camp. They get to build things, play with animals, get dirty. Oh my gosh! On hikes to the creek, go to Jordan Lake, etc. Every week is different. So, being outside for kids is good. I mean, I'm a grandmother, and I hear, a lot of parents saying, I wish my children would just go out and play and not be by the computer so much, but doing this, doing that. What are your thoughts about that?
Oh, that's a big part of why my wife and I do what we do in our businesses. So we have 3 little guys ourselves, 10, 8, and 6. And we started out pretty much like everybody else. The first couple of years they were around, and they watched Toy Story like 100 times, and it became the electronic babysitter. And through a turn of events, we basically looked at each other one day and we said, the TV's got to go. We can't live this way. And we just took it away while they were little. So they kind of grew up not having that as a default. I mean, we're not total weirdos. I mean, we'll still do Friday night movies at home. But we just say there's no screen time. So get outside and play now.
Have no choice. It's now or never.
And kids, and they do that, and they show that your imagination, when you're not kind of boxed into all these Disney type things, and prepackaged toys and things like that. The kids just grab, a pile of wood or old stack of 2x4s or sticks or mud and buckets or a hose, and they're entertained for the afternoon.
Right.
It's good, and that's what we love. I love to see that. It's
interesting because when you start children out small and they're playing with the pots and the pans and they can keep going from there, it's great. I'm sure you get some kids who have maybe not been exposed to expanding their imagination, and whether it's their first time or their 10th time, what do you see happens when they're done with your camp? What are the results, or what have you heard about some of the kids when they leave?
Well, I guess like all things, the proof's in the pudding. So when they come back, then I know that we've done a good job.
Oh, when they come back.
So we have some loyal families who just, they come back every track or every summer, and that's really exciting, and we know we're on the right path. Some, not everybody's a diehard builder, but there's always that group within the group where they don't breaks. We don't want to stop for a break or a game. We want to keep. Don't take the tools out of my hands. Let's keep going. And then others are just kind of happy to be there, and they're exposed to a variety of different things. So that's pretty neat. At the end of the week, though, usually we end up with a really big, cool project, something that they would never be able to build at home just over a weekend.
And what do you do with that when you're done?
That's the crazy thing. People always wonder and ask. We call it our power hour, and it's taken apart to the very last screw.
And they all take it apart.
They do. Even the parents. We invite the parents to come in. The kids show them how to use the tools, and we just take it apart. The parents don't have to, but a lot of times they love jumping in and being part of it and working side by side with their kids. And then by it going away, it's more just about the memories and the learning and the experience rather than attachment. So rather than this is my widget and I want to take it home and you're touching my widget, it's not like that. It's more like this big monstrous machine or thing that has to be disassembled, and then we recycle what we can, and then start over again the following week.
seems pretty well thought through. The concept of the tinkering
I
school.
wish it could. I wish I could say I dreamed it all up, but I didn't.
What did you
It's the
dream of anything?
Oh, sure. I mean, we've run with it a lot.
How'd you
So
make it yours?
um, we mix in. We do things different than they do in San Francisco. We have more outdoor space. What they do is amazing, and theirs is wrapped up kind of with a private school, and they do some amazingly inspiring things out there, and they have an incredible staff. We have added in some parts where kids are making some individual projects at times, because I think some kids still want to learn and kind of they need to go at their own pace. So it's a little bit hard to just have everybody work perfectly together from the get go. So the first day we kind of ramp up to it before we jump into our theme. So that's unique. The other part is just as far as the kind of breaks and experiences that we can offer, we do it. We're 2 miles down the road from Jordan Lake. It's the third largest lake in North Carolina. Last week we went out on the boat and took to this remote cove and caught minnows for part of the afternoon. We can take hikes in the woods and
So it's
things
not
like
just
that.
so tinkering means what?
Tinkering, kind of whatever you want to make it to be. So, some people think that it's all, robotics and electronics and soldering things. It could be that. You could be sewing things together. Sometimes we do that. There was a girl last week who made her very own chair, and she wanted to upholster it. So we wound up cutting out the fabric, and Kristen wound up working with her in order to show her how to attach it and make it. And it was a real chair, which is cool. Normally we don't do that as much, especially in the summer when we have more kids, but it was a smaller group last week, and so when we say it's kid led, that was her interest, and she wanted to have this cool little chair to take home.
Tinkering in life. Interesting. I mean, really, when you think about tinkering in life, I mean, where you tinker with things.
Yeah,
You try a little of this, you try a little of that, you dabble.
that's right. You just have to keep on trying to see what works. Nobody ever knows, so you just
Right.
it's the curiosity and the willingness to even try. And so I think it's a great recipe. I mean, you just throw, of course, with a lot of supervision and safety, but teach the kids how to use these tools and give them kind of a blank slate or a general theme, and then they design the what comes next.
Well, it's important. Imagine it. What did Einstein say about imagination? Do you know? A
Uh,
big I
what did
can't
he say?
remember what he said, but he said something really good about imagination.
Yeah, I bet he
It's
did.
it's so important
Yeah, that's
to
right.
to feed our imagination.
That's right.
Not to look at things as this is the black and white. It's never black and white, and I'm sure when you all make things, even though you might make the same thing, it still comes out a little different,
That's right.
doesn't it?
That's right. That's why we don't have a set plan of blueprints. For a little ahead of schedule, we're working on go karts, for example. Well, then maybe we'll have enough time to build a cool ramp to launch it from. So, we don't try to set too many expectations up front, because then automatically people, or the campers, or even the counselors will get discouraged, like, oh,
Right.
well, we didn't hit
Disappointed.
we didn't hit that
Right.
milestone.
Right.
It didn't work out how we thought it would. So we kind of take it one day as it comes, and just kind of chunk it into smaller little milestones that people can
Right.
work on.
Because and that makes perfect sense when you think about it for all of us, and we set those expectations and we lose sight of what we have already accomplished,
Mhm.
and all we are is looking at the end result as far as the journey.
That's
And
right.
this is a perfect example of, how it can work. So Chris is asking a couple of questions on the chat, and they're really good. So I want to, this is the Einstein quote. Thank you, Chris. She
What is it?
says, imagination is more important than knowledge, for knowledge is limited to all, for knowledge is limited to all we know now and understand, while imagination embraces the entire world and all there ever will be to know and understand. So it's unlimited,
That's right.
as
Imagination is huge. Even I've read a few articles about it, but a lot of the executives in Silicon Valley, they are sending their kids to Waldorf schools or Waldorf-inspired schools where media is really severely limited, if not outright discouraged, up to a certain age because they want their kids to develop and flourish their imagination and invent the iPads of the future. And you can't do that if you're boxed in with what you've already known.
Yeah. I mean, you got to be able to put more in the cup,
You got it.
right?
Hmm.
It's what they call a beginner's mind. If you come to things as an expert, you're never able to, be curious. So it's really important. Like, and I want to ask you these questions, but I love what we're talking about. So, what's your like ultimate? Do you have a goal? Do you have a goal? Oh, well, I didn't know that was going to draw such laughter.
Yeah. I mean, for a goal for tinkering school
Yeah,
or
for
personal
Tinker's
goal?
goal, or you, yeah,
Sure. I mean, I'm grateful that my wife and I have kind of zeroed in on a business. We're answering what we think we're supposed to be doing in life and working with kids in a variety of different ways to get them to experience things that they normally wouldn't outside of a traditional classroom, learning the reading, writing, and arithmetic, the hands-on things. So to have a successful business that we would be able to do that year after year and have kids who remember it being a neat part of their childhood where they got to experience a lot of things for the very first time at one of our programs. I would consider that a success.
I think,
and that's what we're working
yeah,
toward.
I think it's important what Don just said because a lot of times when you know something and you know it, you feel it in your bones, you feel it throughout your entire core. It is something that you just really want to share and you want to give, and whatever this recipe is for the Tinker School, for many kids, maybe not all the kids, but a good amount of kids can learn a lot, can understand their imagination, can feel successful
Hmm.
in a fairly short period of time.
I
And
think
so why not? And why not hold to that mission vision
Hmm.
for as much as you can, and be able to, share it and kind of drop its seeds,
That's right.
right?
That's right.
So Chris is asking some good questions, and I want to ask you. So, do you see more girls versus boys, or vice versa, or what at the camp?
That's a good question. There's more. There's usually more boys. There's usually
That's good.
more boys, which
That's good
well,
in a
it's,
way.
it's good, but I think it's more fun, to have more of a mix.
Right.
During the fall and spring, we're not as busy, so like this week we have probably like two-thirds boys and a third
Do you,
girls.
do you notice different things from them?
It's hard to stereotype
Okay,
because
good.
they
That's good. That's
they,
good.
we've got a lot of hardcore builder girls who want to go for it. They want to be building and making things. Then there's some boys who are like, hey, let's go pet bunnies, and they don't really they don't want to they don't want to build the
That's
whole
cute.
time. So you never
That's
know.
cute.
You never know.
It's like the Burning Man, where they build. You know what the Burning Man is? Where they build a whole like town,
Yeah.
and people come together, and people build a whole town, and at the end of their time there, they burn it.
Yeah. Well, we should do that, but the fire department might be
Yeah,
called.
they
That
might
would
not
be
like
cool.
it.
The
Well, that would
the
be
campers
cool.
would love that.
I bet they
Talk about
would.
managing risk, Marilyn.
Really? Oh my goodness. All right. So talk about your tinkering school of art. Art
Oh,
camp?
okay. Well, it's not called that.
Okay.
Kristen, I've been so fortunate over the last almost 2 years to be working with Kristen and Greg, who are just awesome at what they do. They both have masters in fine arts and extremely creative and awesome with the campers. Kristen and both of them have very artistic backgrounds, and we thought about a year ago when we were planning out this past summer, wouldn't that be cool to take advantage of all that knowledge and experience and offer what we called it organic art camp. So basically using sustainable natural materials to make all these cool art projects. Now, this tended out to be more individualistic, so kind of like art is. It's in the eye of the beholder. So rather than encouraging collaboration and teamwork, it was all kind of a little bit more what you would imagine like an art class to be, other than you're digging the clay out of the earth. You are cutting down the bamboo
Wow.
in order to build it. You're planting things, or you're grinding up the leaves in order to make the dyes that we will then use to dye fabrics or t-shirts or whatever else. So Kristen designed a lot of very cool projects, and the kids loved it. It was cool. So it was a very different format from that standpoint, and we definitely plan on doing that again next summer.
Wow, it's so freeing, it sounds. Like even from your perspective and what you I mean, where do you have to take yourself as Don, as an adult, as a father, a teacher? I mean, where are you going to get this out of you?
Um,
I mean, how do
yeah.
it's interesting because, you know, you it I mean, you're helping to create some of this,
Mhm.
right? So how are you stretching yourself?
I, as a business owner, I've come to learn myself better over the years, and like most entrepreneurs, we're really good at starting things and coming up with ideas and going for it and seeing an opportunity that you feel like your customers, like your kids or your families in this case, would just love. And then we're fortunate for, like in this case with Krista and Greg, to really to run with it and do some neat things. And then the hard part as a business owner is stepping back and like letting them run with it, or setting up boring systems to keep track of boring things like the
When do you
money and
ever
the
say
payments and
no?
stuff. When do I learn to say no?
No, not learn, but like with these ideas or things that pop, how do you either say yes or no?
um I'm,
Because
you
some
know
of this territory that you're going in is somewhat
yeah.
uncharted.
Yeah, oh, it's totally uncharted. So I mean, I know that there are some other tinkering schools, for example. We're not the only ones who've done it. Gaver is given working with the other folks in Austin and Chicago and other places. So that's exciting to know that we're not an absolute pioneer. But as far as like the organic art camp, we just had the sense that it would work. Kids would love to do it, and um, as far as what to say no to, we just kind of leave it up to whoever's running it that week or who's in charge. Um, knowing your limitations is a good thing, and saying no to certain things is a good thing. Um,
When do you know that you are limited?
um, if we like by
Okay.
weather, or just with the kids, or like trying to pack too much in. Sometimes less is more.
Hmm.
Kids need time to process, and it's always my temptation, like, oh, do it this way or more, or let's fit it all in, or let's get it done. So I'm like,
Right.
no, you've got to just kind of go more at the speed of the kids and let them digest, how that worked, and have some farm animal time or some creek stomping time to kind of like just process it, and like let the next thing happen organically rather than forcing it, because it's very, very easy for it to become adult led rather than kid led. And my natural tendency is to be like the teacher and want to get into, let
Really?
me teach you and let's talk about all the details. But kids, they need to go slow.
It sounds to me like you've been able to figure out the boundary of being kid like yourself and teacher like.
I try to get better all the
Because
time.
that's a good place to find yourself. To be able to hold true to both.
Yeah.
Because certainly we all are part of this, and we all can say, no, this is too much, and give ourselves an easy out, and know when it is too much and when it's not too much, when it's too fast and when it's a fear coming up. It's a dance, and having that sense, as Don said, is key. And sometimes that sense comes from just that moment. Sometimes that sense comes from history and experience.
That's true.
It's just being willing not to be attached is interesting. So, yeah, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just, it's just a lot of communicating with the kids, getting a lot of feedback, or
How
just
did they
even
get even get? I
just
want to.
having a sense of the vibe
Mhm.
of the group, and having like the collaborators, like just having a sense of the hard part. I think anybody who works with children or groups of children, being able to sense out who needs help or who has questions or who might not be fitting in or who needs some extra attention. So reaching out and having a good sense of the individuals, the individual campers or the children in this case, but then also having a good sense of the group vibe. Like are we making progress? Are we having fun here? Is this a good direction we're moving in, or is it, are we setting ourselves up for hitting some roadblocks where it won't be fun because things just didn't go the way that we thought they would, or we're losing them. Basically we're hitting bottlenecks. They're getting bored, or their attention's turning, or things like
Wow.
that.
Each week must be one big adrenaline rush on different levels. I mean, you have to check in with, I mean, if it's three of you, four of you, the collaborators slash counselors, teachers, on a regular basis to see, okay, where are we? And what is that telling us? And is it time to do a little switch here, or do we stay the course of where we are? Or how do we present it to the kids? I mean, so when you start your week,
Hmm.
what do you say to those kids? I think that's very important. Like, how do you present what you're going to do, or how do you start? Is there a speech you give before camp each week, or what happens?
Well, like I said, on that Monday, we just express how happy we are that we're there and able to work with them that week. Um, Basically, fire them up with, we're going to be able to be doing these types of things or using these types of tools, for example, and that there's sort of a right way and a wrong way to use some of these things. We need to work on kind of skill building on that first day, and then they will be able to build some individual things that afternoon. Um, and then, depending on the group, we might kind of announce the theme that Monday, or usually it's that Tuesday morning where we say, "Hey guys, this is what we're working with, and here's the theme." I'd like to say that it was built up into some big motivational speech, but it's not always.
Okay. And when something isn't working, how do you present that to the kids?
If something isn't working,
If something isn't
well,
working,
we'll already kind of be into it if we know if
uh-huh.
we'll start the theme. And some are, like there's the whole spectrum. Some kids are like, okay, the theme's this, all right, well then we're gonna do X, Y, and Z, and here would be a cool thing about, if we're gonna do that, then we might as well do this. And they're running at Mach
Right.
3 already. And then others are like, you come up with, you think, the coolest theme ever, and they're like, oh, hey, there's a butterfly.
Right.
You just don't know what you're going to get. So, but then things kind of evolve over the course of the week, and you see what their interests are, or some kids kind of get hooked or just are slow starters, and then they kind of get into it and they see how they fit in or what they're going to be able to work on. And then others hit the ground running. Others, it just kind of ebb and flow. That's
Right.
just it. So even during the building time, if kids need a little downtime or to decompress, it's not like they're sitting at a desk where they're forced to work rigidly on something. So yeah, all different paces from all different kinds of kids.
So do you, as well as the other founders for other tinkering schools, get together and share what you're doing?
No,
No.
I wish we could say that we did. I'll defer that back to Gaver. I think that there's a lot of support, and could be even more. I think we're just all busy running with what our own versions of tinkering are, and I think that is what Gaver's mission and dream is. Really, is just kind of run with it, make it your own, and it's, as long as it's under the umbrella of tinkering and empowering kids in a certain format, then roll with it.
Well, it's all part of the imagination, isn't it?
Yes.
As opposed to, doing something that somebody else has already done.
Yes.
So what is your favorite tinkering school story?
Oh, that's a good question. I would say, I okay. Not this past summer, but in summer 2016, we did something that I think almost any kid would really be into. Certainly, any little boy would be into, and we built a castle, and it was huge. It was awesome. It was massive, and it used up so much wood. We ran out of wood. We actually
Oh my
ran out of
gosh.
screws, and then of course we were like, no, no, let's keep the focus on the castle rather than all the medieval weaponry that you can come up, crossbows and swords and battle axes.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
we built it all, and it was awesome. And it was a hot week. But it had a working drawbridge. And then the best part, which was so cool, was it was a real live water balloon fight with the kids defending the castle against their parents. So on that Friday afternoon, the
That's
parents came
great.
early,
That's
and
great.
it was all out. I mean, we had little water cannons and coolers and coolers packed full of water balloons. They spent the entire day making water balloons, like just psyched for this moment that their mom or dad or both of them would be showing up. And it was just a free for all for about 20 minutes. We tried to video a lot of it, and it was a great memory. But then to top it off was the power hour to disassemble. And it was
Hard.
it was normally we're done within an hour. Sometimes like it could be a half hour if it was something on the smaller side. Usually it's like 45 minutes. I think we were still going strong like an hour and a half
Oh,
into it.
wow.
Bless the parents who were into it that day because it was cool. But everything was taken apart to the very last screw. And that I love that week. That was a great week.
God, so we have some pictures actually of some things that go on at tinkering school. So maybe we can show them and you can tell us what we're looking at. All
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
Here we go, everybody. Okay. So what is this?
Oh, that's the creek in the back of the farm. We've had a little bit of a drought lately, so it's not that full now. But we try to end every day creek stomping. So there's tons of clay back there. No kidding, we had a kid find two different real Native American Indian arrowheads, which is really pretty neat. Um, you can get lost back there. We're playing Capture the Flag through, we're right next door to the Jordan Lake Christmas Tree Farm, and they were fortunate to have that available at times, and we did Capture the Flag in between the trees.
That's like a game my father used to play.
Oh
I
yeah, that's
think.
like good old school. It's good.
How many of you out there, raise your hand, would like to be doing this?
Oh
I'm
man,
counting.
we have fun. We have fun. So there is one of our tinkerers. She's using an impact driver there. That was a new model that we tested out that didn't really work out for us. We have actually one that's a little bit smaller, and actually adults are impressed with how strong and how much how good they are at driving screws in. But they're small enough that kids can use them. If you're like 8 to 12, I mean, you can use these things and drive screws all day long. So I forget which project that is, but she's going for it.
We have
You,
another one.
you can get into
Oh.
writing reviews of power tools.
Yeah, really. Oh, we
Oh,
don't test that many. Actually, that was one of the things that, a lot of tips and tricks from tinkering school, just saying what kind of things that they use that works best with kids.
What is this one?
This one, we said we're going to build. Wait, that was. I can't. That was either the beginning of a house or a life-size, human-size hamster cage. I take it back. That's the beginning of a human-size hamster cage. So you picture a little hamster cage that you get at PetSmart or something like that with the little balls and slides and things that you crawl through. So this ended up being 2 stories and taking up half the workshop. And we kind of built everything to code, so to speak. 16-inch on center, and so it's structurally sound, so we know
So
we're
are you a
not.
builder?
No,
What-
not at all.
What are you then? I mean, honestly, what are you? Where do you come from and what are you?
I'm a jack of all trades and a
You're a
master of none.
tinkerer.
I'm a tinkerer at heart.
Did you grow up as a tinkerer?
No.
But you're a good tinkerer.
uh, we've learned along the way. It's fun.
Oh my
It's
God.
fun.
How much studying do you have to do to get these things going?
Yeah, it's just a little bit of trial and error and starting with the same, similar foundation. So we know if we're going to build a wall, we know how we're going to build the code. Because a wall usually is part of a house or a tower or something huge
Right.
like that. So we built, which was really cool. Well, we built 2 other things that were awesome. These are good memories
Okay,
too.
good. Hold on. Here we
One
go.
of them, One of them was an elevator. So we actually had an elevator shaft that went, I think it was like, it was about 20 feet into the air, and we used a chain hoist. So it was the world's slowest elevator to go up, but kids could actually crawl inside the car. And then one of the collaborators was the one who was working the chain hoist, and that was really cool to see that come to life. But just knowing, okay, is this strong enough? Is this gonna work? Because there's a lot of kids. Oh boy, I don't,
Do you wonder too?
I'm sorry.
Do you wonder too if it's going to work?
Oh, well, no, I know it's going to work. I
Okay.
know we over-engineer things, and we make sure that things are strong
Okay.
enough. And I always test them, or Greg, or somebody who's big and strong will jump on something a bunch to make sure that it's going to work. We built a 20-foot long truss bridge that had like a 20-foot span across towers, and I had no idea, how to build it or how it was going to work, other than you look at a few pictures and you get the wood and you lay it out, and really you're just making a bunch of triangles, on these trusses, and in the end, all the kids wound up walking across the bridge at the same time, and that was really cool.
I mean, that would make me cry.
It was cool.
Do you cry a lot?
Sometimes I'm a mushball.
You
I
must
totally
be
cry.
a mushball.
I
for
do
sure.
cry. I get all worked up over things like that, but it's fun. It's fun.
So, like when you did the castle,
Yeah.
did you know ahead of time that they were going to do a balloon fight? Balloon
No.
things? So that just that idea just came.
Yeah, it came over the course of the week, and the kids come up with the ideas. And we're like, well, it's summer, it's hot, it's a bunch of balloons. Yeah, go get the balloons. Let's
It's
get them. Let's fire it
very
up.
important is to be able
So-
to capture those spontaneous. I call them moments of genius.
That's right.
And it's so really, and it's a moment of genius, and then
Yeah.
you capture them.
Oh yeah.
And you go with it, and then the opportunity to see parents and children do that must have just must have been
Oh, I
just
love it.
phenomenal.
I love it. That's great. Oh, there we go. You found it. There's the truss bridge. So that's a 20-foot span there, and all the kids are on. And I mean, it doesn't look like much, and it probably wouldn't pass the North Carolina Department of Transportation code. But I mean, you can walk up there, and the kids built 100% of it. I think the only thing that we did was lift the two halves of the trusses up into position, so we could attach it finally. So that turned out very cool.
It's wonderful for the kids to be working together like this, and then for the parents to come and I bet this is teaching parents a lot to
I
be
hope-
watching their kids work together.
Yeah, I
Oh.
hope so. I mean, a lot of parents, they do love it. So, and the best thing is that kids, when they go home and they're like, "Oh, I so want to go back," or then it's already sold.
So you can
it's
only
good.
take a certain amount.
Yeah, we only have it's just
How do you
max 15
grow?
kids.
How do you grow?
Well, that's the other challenge. Well, that's part of the reason we started the organic art camp, and we have the other day camp program. So
Yeah,
it-
tell everybody about all that.
yeah, so we live at a place called Sunstar Farm, and it's 12 acres there, and so trying to set it up and use it in a way that we can provide these small, intimate kind of experiences. So all of our groups are kind of based in like that 12 to 15 kid range, and they go off and do their own thing, and they don't overlap, or at no point is there ever like gobs of kids on top of each other. We want to know them. We want to know the family. They're not a name. To our detriment, they don't have like little wrist bracelets and scan codes. Okay, your kid is dropped off. Let me check you in. Bzz, here's your microchip. It's not like that at all. So
So it can be done not like that.
yeah,
it can be
it
done.
Can be done.
Yeah, it can be done
So
like that.
every group or counselor basically is in charge of running their own show there. So I'm partial, even though I have a lot of boating background, I'm partial to the tinkering because I love that experience of kids, seeing something come to life over the course of the week and then taking it apart to the very last screw on that Friday.
It's amazing. Before we go on to the next slide, I just want to welcome anybody that wants to call in. We still have time. 919-518-9773. Here's a great opportunity to tinker with a tinkering school. And then you can do it at computers. That's plural, 2K Voice if you like. And please take us up on it. This is fun. So tell me what this one is.
Sure. This one was we built a puppet stage, basically. So it's its own puppet show. So Um, it was kind of a different direction from a lot of what we made, but at the end, all those pieces are all cut out from Luan, kind of like the thin plywood, and made little marionettes and spent a lot of time painting and decorating. But that's actually a stage. You can't tell from the picture. That's about 4 feet up off the ground. And then there's a little area behind where the puppeteers can work, and there's curtains, and they painted the whole enchilada. I think they even, I want to say they dyed the curtains as well. So it was really cool. Actually, all of it turned out great. The hardest part that we had was having enough time to actually put together
Well,
an
yeah,
entertaining show with the
really.
storyline. So we didn't get that far. We obviously don't have theater
So
backgrounds.
is this a 7 days,
This was
6 days? What
Monday through
happened?
Friday.
Monday through Friday. So you can do all this from what time to what time?
Oh, like 9 to 4 is our primary building time, and then we play games and do lunch and all that kind of stuff
Uh-huh.
as well. So it's not like solid building time, but
Okay.
over the course of the week, you can get a lot done.
Wow. It's interesting what you can get done when you really are intentional,
Oh yeah,
you know.
absolutely.
And so what is this?
Well, we're right down the road from Jordan Lake, so I think it was Greg and Kristen. They're like, "Hey, let's build a boat. You know, it's hot. Let's get out there." And so they kind of talked through some ideas, and this was one that you actually wanted it to succeed, and so we spent a little bit of a time kind of coming up with a general game plan. But the idea was for there to be several of these boats that we made, so the kids could race each other and get out there on the lake. And then we put them up on a trailer, launched them at the lake. All the kids came, or I'm sorry, the parents came on that Friday to watch them at the lake. And they were able to build their own paddles and paddle around. And it was really cool. We used, what is that, a 55-gallon like food grade plastic drum. I think we bought them for $10 on Craigslist. Cut a hole in it, figured out a good way to make little pontoons. Those are PVC little pontoons on either side, so they were stable. And the only thing that worked against us was that Friday. It turned out to be quite windy. So as far as it being a true seaworthy, maneuverable craft, it proved otherwise. But
Uh-huh.
that's a big part of tinkering is that, you know, when you set up kids for success constantly and they never encounter failure or
Right.
things that go against them, then it's just too easy. So sometimes coping with things that don't go your way is a big part of it.
It's a big part of it. Because I mean, and it's interesting because it's almost like the sky is the limit,
Hmm.
and yet you still have to work within the limitlessness of the sky. In some ways, it's kind of crazy, but
Yeah.
because you sort of, and so I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, they deal with almost like nothing is impossible. You can make something work, but then it doesn't work,
That's right. That's life.
and that's life. And what have you learned? Like, what is over the years? What have you learned?
uh, kids are pretty awesome. I think we as parents or as teachers or just as adults, have too many preconceived notions about what kids are capable of and what they can do. It's like, oh well, you can only do these subjects and get this far in school by this grade, or you're too little. We can only trust you with a butter knife and a bar of soap to carve, as opposed to a real pocket knife and whittling. I think we put too many limitations, and then kids end up being in bubbles. I have to keep reminding myself that people were in the Pony Express,
Right.
150 years ago, delivering the mail, facing bandits and rough terrain, and you know. Populations of Native American Indians who weren't so happy to see them go by, and these kids weren't even 18. So
Right.
I love the idea of kids taking on and assessing risk.
Mhm. And assessing risk.
Yeah.
And how do you assess risk?
Just learning from the pioneers who went before you, like all the ways. Oh, first time you're going to do anything. Okay, where are the ways that I could injure myself, or that something really bad could happen? And then you learn all those, and you go, okay, I'm not going to do those.
It
So-
sounds exactly like my husband. It is exactly what my husband does.
Yeah.
He's in construction. He says, I don't bend. He doesn't bend over.
Yeah.
He can hurt himself. He
Yeah.
knows that, so he doesn't do it.
Yeah, you just don't do it, and but as long as you
Right.
ignore or just make sure that you don't blow off all the smart bits of wisdom from people in the past, and then you run with the new things, and then you'll find new ways to hurt yourself or to do something that is risky. So,
Right. Well, I think, the lessons that these children are learning, we all can learn.
yeah, absolutely.
We have a lot more freedom and a lot more things that we are capable of. And that's why we do the show, is to show that. Because we've narrowed, in some cases, not all cases, but in some cases, we've narrowed down our options. And we've done that. Or we're listening to people and we're thinking we have to do that, and we don't. We want to listen to people who are showing us that we don't have to. Take a look at these pictures. See what kids are doing, right?
That's right.
Anybody can. So what is this?
Oh, this is one of our miniature llamas. This is Little Red Dude at the farm here. So they're making friends, probably after lunch and just hanging out. So the kids get to see. We've got a few animals there that the kids love, like Muckley, a huge Kuni pig, a breed from New Zealand. We have goats. All the kids know them by name. Bunnies and guinea pigs and miniature horse and just some animals that a lot of kids don't get to spend time around these animals, or if they do, it's like in such a small and quick way that they don't really get to interact with them for any
Right.
length of time. So over the course of the week, a lot of kids come just because of the cool things they get to do outside.
So Chris is asking, how do you assess? Is it the same for your children in assessing risk for your own family? How do you live? You practice what you preach.
We hope so. We don't have a TV in our house, and the hard part is always just having enough time.
Right.
And living and working in the same place is hard for adults to even get with it. So when we have a summer day camp program and there's children around, then my younger kids are like, "Oh, mom and dad, are they working? Not working?
Or are they
and
playing?
or are they playing?" And then they get pretty wild. They kind of have free range
Okay.
when they're at home to do pretty much whatever they want. So they're a little wild. Our
Well,
houses
I
are,
mean,
we have holes in our walls in our living room. There could be the sound of an impact driver going off at any given moment. But it's exciting, and I'd rather have excitement for them
right.
and than them just stuck
Right.
inside doing things that are too limiting.
Well, I have a 26-year-old stepson, and he would do some crazy things, and I would just go like this. But at the end of the day, you just sometimes I would go like this, but
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
You know?
that saying, it's easier to tame a wildcat than it is to light a dud. So
Exactly.
our kids are a little bit wild,
But they're lit.
but they're lit. They're lit.
They're lit.
They are lit.
So tell us, so you have the farm and you run this out of the farm. Anything else? Tell us everything else everything that's about the
Sure.
stuff that you do.
Sure. Tinkering schools, just part of it. The farm itself, during the school year, my wife runs it as sort of a farm preschool. It's a Waldorf-inspired farm preschool, and just this year we added kindergarten officially. So it's small, it's intimate. It's sort of uses Waldorf early childhood philosophy, which is very similar to the things we've talked about as far as empowering kids, limiting media, a certain way of interacting with them. And then we're right down the road. We have a boating background or yachting background. So we have Jordan Lake Boating Camp, which is a day camp for children where they're out there, and the whole camp is based from the boat. So we go to all the best parts of the lake. The kids learn to drive the boats. We bring a huge stack of paddle boards with us. We explore all these neat coves. We go bring all of our fishing gear. We have kayak day. We sail another day. The kids have fun. There's nothing else like it, and it's a blast. The farm camp, Sunstar Farm Camp, runs in the summertime as well. So we're busy. We're busy, and it's exciting though, and they all kind of fit under that theme of kids being empowered and being outdoors and experiencing things that they normally wouldn't be able to otherwise.
We a couple of weeks ago had a gentleman on. Chris can remind me of what his name was, but he has a tree climbing business.
Cool.
And very cool. And he broadcasted from the top of a tree, and he takes all age groups up on this tree.
That's great.
You and him should connect.
I gotta meet him. I spent a lot of
Yes.
time climbing trees when I was younger. I think there's some universal connection there with swaying in the wind, and climbing for sure.
Yeah, it was very interesting, how he does it and how he gets the kids ready and adults for that matter.
Oh yeah.
So, it's an interesting thing. Oh, Patrick Brandt, Chris says. Is it Premier, Chris? Is it Premier? I think he's a professor at State
Okay.
or UNC, and he has
Cool.
this business. Yeah, it's very interesting what you can do.
Yeah, I love it.
So, um, do you offer certain prices depending on age group, or how do you? And is this something you can talk about now?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
if you want to, our, I mean, what we do is kind of special and unique. So it's not like going to the YMCA. The YMCA provides a lot of valuable services to children and to families, but in order to make it work, I mean, it does cost more. But we're actually right smack dab in the middle of like what's available here locally. So
Okay.
it's not at the very high end. Um, our summers, I don't know how much you want to get into detail, but it's basically a week-long program. We
Okay.
charge a little more for extended hours, and that's it. Bring
And
your lunch.
and do you ever have kids that have come from other places other than locally?
Sometimes we do. I'm
Okay.
surprised at how many do come. We have kids who will maybe be visiting grandparents in the area over a few weeks, and they think that this would be a really cool thing. So they'll be signed up. We had three girls come down from Virginia. This was their second summer in Jordan Lake Boating Camp, and that was neat. We had a few fit in similar situations like that.
So there are tinkering schools in other parts of the country.
That's right.
So you have to find one if it is in your neck of the woods, or come to North Carolina and come to ours, right?
That's right. I think that the general concepts here I think hold true and would be beneficial for kids just about anywhere. And all the people who run these programs absolutely love children and providing these types of experiences and believe in what they do. So your children are in good hands.
So, what is your words of wisdom for someone who's listening to this and wants to do a little bit more with their children? They don't live here, or, they just want to do something. What would your words of wisdom be along these lines?
Uh, you you can't schedule quality time. It's hard, and kids know they're so smart. They know when they're being scheduled, when they're being slotted in. And I'm even guilty of it too with my kids. It's hard, and some of these things just take time. And I think that's been the biggest challenge for my own kids is they'll see this big amazing things. They'll be like, "Dad, come on, let's just build a whatever," and I'll be like, "It takes some time, and it's hard to do, and you kind of have to have things planned out, but." If you work up to it or do bite-sized stuff, it's amazing what you can do. Yeah, I would just say, if they're younger, just pick age appropriate. Usually, kids can't really use cordless drills or impact drivers until they're like 8, 9, and do it well. But they get frustrated. So if they're younger, I mean, you just use different things. Um,
And the way we see our children, what's the words of wisdom?
the way we say,
The way we see our children. What's your words
just
of wisdom?
let them try, let them fail, let them do it, have them build big stuff, big, cool. Don't set limits on them.
Bigger than they can imagine, and bigger than you can imagine
That's right.
in some ways, right? And let them try. I love that. Don't
That's
take
right.
away their right to try,
You got it,
because
Marilyn.
that is doing it. To me, the word try is not sitting on a fence. That is actually experiencing it. That is living it. That is doing it, right?
Right.
So it's been really terrific having you here. And, every week we do bring you marvelous people doing great things that open up our eyes, our hearts to more and opportunities. So, Dawn, it's been a pleasure having you here today.
Thank you, Marilyn. I really enjoyed it too.
And check in with him. So if you have any questions. And for me, if I can help you with anything, please let me know. Don't forget, I have a book on Amazon, In Just One Afternoon, Listening to the Hearts of Men. You can find it as an ebook. You can find it as a paperback. I'm passionate about everybody's stories. And tomorrow night, just so you know, if you're in the Raleigh-Durham area, I'm having a Pride story night. So if you or someone you know has a story about coming out and challenges having to do with coming out, we're honoring Pride Week at Ruby Deluxe in downtown Raleigh. We'd love to have you. And with that, Amnon, thank you for everything.
Thank you.
It's always a pleasure. And you can find me at MarilynShannon.com and Marilyn at MarilynShannon. MarilynShannon.com and Marilyn at MarilynShannon. I almost got caught on my own name. All right. See you next week. Bye.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.